Obviously, we're excited to we leave today, so we're getting there a little bit early with it being a 12 noon game on Thursday. Had a really good workout yesterday. I've had meetings with the guys individually as a group. We're excited. Obviously for us, Saturday we wish would have went a little bit better for us in terms of outcome. Watching it, we actually did some good things. I'm going to give, as I said after the game, Rutgers credit. I thought they played really, really well. We had great opportunities and shots during the game that we had been making, and a few of them didn't go in. More than a few, and sometimes that happens. At the end of the day, try to look at what we can control. I thought defensively we could be a little bit better, but guys, we're good the last couple of days. Like I said, we're excited to get to D.C. We got a great challenge in Michigan. They're playing really well right now. They've won, I think it's 6 of their last 8. We've won 5 of our last 7. Both teams, I think, are a lot different, certainly than when we played them the first 2 times. I don't know what John would say about his team, but I feel like ours is different. Obviously we're better in a lot of different areas. Just from watching them on film, I feel the same about them. I think they're playing, like I said, I think they're playing really well. Walton in particular has really, I think, elevated his game, as have others. They obviously had a great offensive performance over the weekend and defensive at Nebraska. So it'll be a great challenge, that our guys are looking forward to. But we're excited. We feel like, obviously we would like to play a little bit better on Saturday, but all in all, over the last month, we're clearly, playing the best that we've played, especially defensively, rebounding, a lot of different areas, ball movement, and, getting back to those things here this week. Had a great workout yesterday. Guys were really good. It was short. This time of year, knowing what we've got here starting on Thursday. And we'll be short again today, continue our preparation for Michigan. Then we'll get on the plane tonight, head to D.C., work out tomorrow in D.C., and then play on Thursday. So, it's that time of year where it's neat for our guys, to be playing for something. It's a privilege. We're excited about that. But we just got to take it one day at a time. I think that our guys have done that for the most part throughout the course of the last month, and it's a big reason why we've gotten a lot of traction. So, questions?
You say think Michigan's a different team and yourself as well. Do you see a lot of you anticipate a lot of new things from them? Do you see them just executing differently?
I think certainly they've added things since we played them last. It was a while ago. Those 2 games are really close together when we played them. We have as well, but I think more what I'm referencing there is just, obviously ball movement on offense, their shot making, and then defensively I've seen them just on the film, in my opinion. You certainly have to ask their coach, continue to grow and get better at that end. And I think they're playing well both ends of the floor right now. And I think we are too, so it's, obviously it's a 40-minute game, and, we've got to be prepared to play every possession the right way, do everything we can at the defensive end to make it difficult on them, which is not easy. I mean, they're the number 1 offense in the league. They're 6th in the country from an offensive efficiency standpoint. And then offensively, we've got to do a good job of moving the ball and knock a couple in. And certainly we're capable of doing that. But getting back to I thought our ball movement got a little bit stagnant late in the game on Saturday in particular, but so we talked a little bit about that. But our guys are playing very well together, trusting each other at a higher level than we were earlier in the season. And now what does that mean on Thursday? I don't know. I mean, we got to go play the game and take it one possession at a time.
Do you prepare the team at all for Purdue right now?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I mean, you guys have had to string together a lot of wins here.
Yeah.
You've had pressure on you.
Sure.
How does that help going in?
Well, I think it helps. The one thing I would say is I've not really talked about that with those guys, and from the standpoint of, hey, look, guys, it's going to be one day at a time. We've really stuck with the concept of climbing the ladder, and I think it's been good for us. I think it's a big reason why we've continued to improve, Jeremy, because we've kind of taken it one day at a time, one step at a time, and not got too far ahead of ourselves or reflected back, other than we do take time to learn, from every circumstance that we're in. What could we do better? We certainly did that after Saturday, yesterday, through some of our meetings individually, as a team, through film, So we always want to use every circumstance we're in to grow and get better and learn. But I just think those guys have done a really good job. It starts certainly with our older guys. Tracy's got a great voice. We all know that, of that buy-in. And I think it's a big reason why our defense has gotten better and why we've improved as a team.
At Rutgers, and that was a game where T.J. maybe dealt with some foul trouble he had.
He did, yeah.
I mean, that's maybe a lot to put on a freshman point guard, but if he's not out there, what maybe needs to happen to make up for?
Yeah, obviously, he's been really good for us. Been a big part of the run that we've been on. The other day he did get in a little bit of foul trouble, but I don't pin that just on him in terms of ball movement. That needs to be all of us. I thought it was pretty good, Scott, until late in the game. Maybe the last 6 minutes or so, it could have been a little bit better. But, we had a layup on our last possession. We had a wide open three from J. Cole. We had a tip in that trickled out. So we had some shots that were good shots that we needed to, make maybe just one or two more of them. A couple free throws. We get fouled. A chance to make 2 free throws to go up 5. We missed both. So, we had some opportunities. But I still thought it could have been just a little bit better. And maybe part of that's because it's been so good over the last month where it's moved really well. Our assist rate's been well over 50%. We've really connected at both ends of the floor, and certainly offensively I was used to seeing that. And, maybe with 6 minutes to go, we could have been a little bit better on some of those possessions.
Obviously, all these Big Ten schools have big alumni bases, but how does it change things when it's not in Indy and schools are not, 2 hours away? With the exception of Maryland and maybe Rutgers, this is a hike for local fans. How does that affect the dynamic?
It doesn't really affect our preparation at all, or, obviously we're going out, maybe a little bit earlier than normal just to get out there, get acclimated with an early start time and the fact that it is in D.C. But, other than that, it really doesn't affect, our preparation, how we practice, how we prepare. Certainly, I'm guessing it's going to affect, as you mentioned, some of the fans' ability to get there as easily, where Chicago or Indianapolis is a drive. But, we've had good support at the conference tournaments, and we have some alums out that way. So, I'm sure we'll see, as we always do when we go into some of these venues, we see a lot of orange and blue and meet a lot of our great fans, even at some of these road games that we've had recently. So that is what it is. We can't control that. I know it's a great venue, and the tournament's always ran very well. So, we're just excited to get out there and get rolling.
Last week was a very emotional week, the high of senior night and disappointment on Saturday. I feel like the last few days have kind of been a reset button in terms of that.
Yeah, no question. I tell them always that never to get too high, Derek, or never to get too low. It's usually somewhere in the middle. And I would say that's fair to say. Although Sunday we had went so many days in a row. We'd had Sunday late game, Wednesday late game, Saturday 11 a.m. game, and our guys have really given a lot, man, to put themselves in position and work their butts off. So, they looked forward to having Sunday off and able to regroup a little bit physically as much as anything, as well as mentally. And then we got back together yesterday and had a good day.
You've met with Michigan a lot of times in the Big Ten tournament. How does this team, with his system compare to some of the teams he's had?
Yeah, no, great question. Obviously, we know you look at their statistics offensively over the years. This isn't the only year they've been great offensively. I think they're really good defensively as well. I think it's an area where I've just watched them on film. I think they've continued to get better and better and better, and now they've got both ends working well. But I would say one of the things that makes them unique, Jeremy, and I mentioned this even going into the first 2 games, is, Mo Wagner and the way he's been playing lately, and the fact that he plays that center position for them puts you in a lot of different dilemmas because of his ability to play like a guard, shoot, pass, dribble. Obviously he's a little bit different. They've certainly had guys like that over the years play that position, but he's got a very versatile skill set, which I think makes them unique when you put him around, 4 other shoot, pass, dribble guys. And it makes them very, very difficult to defend.
You say both teams have changed a lot. How would you say your team's changed over the last 7 What have you done better?
We're just better in a lot of areas, Jim. It's I think it starts, obviously just talking to those guys. Those guys' mindset, they got a great mindset. I think we've gotten better at what we do. I don't know if it's so much like drastic change, X and O's. I think we've gotten to where those guys have really started to play. I've mentioned this with some toughness and togetherness. Our focus has been really good. We've made less mistakes. We've executed better. We've been more connected. And some of that comes from those guys playing together. We had an odd team. I mentioned that to you guys previously, where we've got this team on paper that looks old, but very few of them have played together. And so I think it took some time for that connection. We all want it fast, me included. And I think sometimes it takes some time for that connection to take place. So, but we understand, Thursday's a different game. It's a different day. We have to come out and we have to play well. What we've done in 5 of the last 7, or it certainly helps that we've had that type of traction and we're playing better. But none of that really matters at 12 o'clock. We have to play really well, execute the game plan, play with great toughness, play with great togetherness, and do that again. On Thursday.
I've seen like Greg Marshall from Wichita State openly talk about bracketology and all that kind of stuff. Do you look at that?
I don't. I don't do that. Some coaches are different, with that stuff. I just think for this particular team, the best thing for us, obviously, because we played certainly really good basketball here down the stretch, is to just take it one day at a time and to honor the process, and we've done that. I think certainly, I'll say it again, it helps when your dominant voice is Tracy. He's reiterating that, believes in that, and so when I'm not around, that's what you hear him saying. Even I'll be walking, I hear him one day at a time. I mean, that's his mindset. That certainly helps, and he's been great in that regard in terms of that leadership piece. So for us, we don't. We just stay in one day at a time, controlling what we can control.
It's tempting to look at.
Maybe for them. For me, I'm a little bit older. I can kind of navigate that stuff a little bit better and, choose what I watch. It is hard because, I even mentioned this, I think it was a weekend ago or so. I hadn't paid much attention to that stuff, and all I really wanted to do was just watch my brother's team play. We had already had hay in the barn, and prep was done, and, that's all they're talking about throughout the telecast, and finally I had to turn it off. I just, no disrespect to my brother. I was, pull for my brother and guys that are in our, coaching family and close friends. But yeah, so I would say just even from that instance, if I'm, 18 to 22 years old, yeah, it's not easy, but, doing this thing at a really high level and doing it well is not easy either. You have to have some discipline. So we've continued to encourage those guys to, stay in bunker mode.
How was Tracy after the game the other day? Circumstances.
He was emotional. He's the best. I mean, he'll pin it all on, hey, I should have made the layup. He probably makes that layup, I don't know, 3 out of 5 times, maybe tough, 4 out of 5, I don't know. I mean, he'd probably tell you 9 out of 10. He's a tough critic on himself, Drove it right in there and got a pretty good look, and it just didn't go in. So, but he knows, and he and I have talked, there's so many possessions in a game, Tup. Obviously you can pinpoint that one. We miss a layup. A guy who's made 6 threes all year makes a 25-footer, But at the end of the day, it's not just about those 2 possessions. It's about the other ones. He knows that. He's smart enough to know that. And what Derek talked about, he's even said to me about, not getting too high, not getting too low. So he knows. He's a vet. He knows that, we got to be ready to roll on Thursday. And outcome of Saturday, or as Derek mentioned, the high of last Wednesday, has nothing to do with Thursday. And Tracy knows that. The fact that he knows that, believes that, and can breathe that into our team is a big deal. So we're blessed in that regard.
Obviously, a lot of good players in the Big Ten, but any disappointment Malcolm wasn't first team All Big Ten?
Obviously, we feel strongly about Malcolm, what he does and what he's brought to the table, his versatility, what he means to our team. There are a lot of really good players, Jim. I think, more than anything, we're just grateful he's with us and has played some good basketball, not only throughout his career, but especially here for the bulk of this stretch run here towards the end. And the voting is however the voting goes. I know he's certainly one of the better players in our league, and I think the voting indicates that. He could have very easily been first team. Okay, but he's second team. There are a lot of really good players, and we certainly have respect for the the great league we play in and the other great players in our league.
John, I can appreciate your focus on the right in front of you, but has Josh given you any assurances past this week?
Josh and I talk weekly, and Josh daily, sometimes text. He's with us on every trip, and his support has been awesome. But I'm gonna be honest with you. Almost for me, and part of it's probably because he knows me. I'm going one day at a time, and but he's been fantastic. I mean, I couldn't ask for more support, and he's been great. And we talk a lot and talk about our team and whether recruiting or whatever it might be. So, for me right now, my focus is on one day at a time. I think he knows that. He senses that. He's around us enough. He hears what I'm saying to the team, to our staff, and he respects that, and that's how we've left it.
Last few days, Tom Izzo has kind of been very forward in supporting what he thinks is a really good Big Ten, and that parity doesn't necessarily always mean poor. Just what was your take on that? Where nationally, Big Ten's kind of getting hammered a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know the other leagues like that. I don't. I know what's going on in our league, and there's no question. Someone asked me last week, Scott, about the parity. It's the strongest and there's been some years that have been strong now, but 1 through 14, or obviously when the league had a few less teams when I first started in my first stint. I just have thought back, and as we now finished it, I think I can say it's had as much parity or more than any year I've been in the league as an assistant or head coach, 1 through 14. And it's fun. It makes it great. I mean, like as Jim mentioned, great players, great coaches, great venues. Anyone can beat anybody on a given night. I mean, it's, I think it's great. So I would agree with them. I mean, I think the parity, you could replay probably a lot of those games over again. There might be different results. That's how much parity, that there is in our league. I mean, it's amazing. So, but we love that. We love the challenge of that, and I know our players do as well. It's certainly, I always remind them that's why they came. It's why I came, and we embrace that.
You had that noon Eastern tip at Rutgers and had a slow start. Another one on Thursday. Anything you would want to do differently given that time slot?
Yeah, not give up a dunk to start the game and not turn the ball over on our first possession would be preference. But no, I think in terms of physically, Derek, we were in a good place. And watching it, it's easy. Sometimes I tell those guys it's easy for coach to stand up there and say, play harder. And, maybe on a possession or two, got to play harder here and there. But we played hard. I mean, those guys, they wanted to play. They prepared well. They had, I could hear them in the locker room. That was no different. We just needed to execute a little bit better on some things here and there, and then maybe make a couple shots. I don't know. I mean, even for me, I try to look at the defense and not worry about the shot making at all. But, when you miss a dunk and 2 layups and you shoot 36%, it's hard. I don't know. I mean, if you looked at the games in the Big Ten this year and said, okay, we're going to take the road team and see how many times the road team won shooting 36% or worse, it probably wouldn't be a real high percentage. So I can pick on a blob play that we blew a switch on one, and those are the things we can control, and those are the things that we'll talk about. But sometimes at the end of the day, you just got to, maybe make a dunk or make a free throw or make a couple shots. We had some good ones, some really good ones. And like we had done a lot over the month. I don't know. We had back-to-back games, didn't we, DB? We made double-figure threes. I felt like we got the same ones on Saturday, to be honest, very similar, but just didn't make as many of them. So, hopefully Lord will bless us with a little bit of shot making, and we can continue to minimize mistakes at both ends of the floor on Thursday.
Treat this as a business trip, but going out kind of a day early, would there be time for the players to see something? I know, New York, they went to the.
Yeah, we walked over. I took them over. I'd like to do that, Scott. It's an early tip, and I kind of, I trust those seniors, and I get feedback from them. We did have a couple options to do a couple things tomorrow, and those guys want to stay off their feet. They want to be ready to rock and roll on Thursday.
Coach, I think Shannon has a question on
Yeah, Shannon, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, thanks. I wanted to follow up on what Jeremy asked you, and just does that mean that you expect to be back next season?
I'm not worried about that right now, to be honest with you, Shannon. I'm worried about Michigan on Thursday. I appreciate your follow-up question, but for me right now, it would be hypocritical for me to tell the players that we're climbing the ladder, taking one step at a time, doing that way every single day, and then to not do that myself would be hypocritical. So right now, all I'm focused on is practice today, and hopefully we have a good one today, and then once that's in the bank, then we'll take the next step tomorrow. So, obviously, trying to predict future or look back at this point with a rearview mirror, in my opinion, is a waste of time. So, I appreciate your question, but that's kind of where I'm at with it right now.
Okay, and then I am going to ask you something that, for a little perspective, just on, a big picture type of question on as far as what would you say, where maybe looking at this these last couple games, just kind of the trajectory of the program right now. It seems like you guys have played well late, and
Yeah.
where do you feel like the program overall has
Sure.
a big picture?
Obviously I don't, again, trying to think about that right now. We hit the reset button and we're trying to learn from every circumstance. But I did mention to Andy Katz yesterday during the interview that, I do feel really good about what our seniors have been able to show, J. Cole, Tijon, Kipper, Finke, Black, AJ, DJ, all our young guys that are playing significant roles for us and doing great things for us, how we want to do things. I'm so blessed with Tracy and, Malcolm and Mav, and even the way Thorne's handled himself, and Tate and Alex. I've challenged them to leave a phenomenal legacy. So the credit really goes to them, Shannon. But right now, and I've said this to my wife as well, I feel as good about how we've played over the last month and our unselfishness, our toughness, our togetherness as I have at any time since I've been here. And again, a lot of that credit goes to, Tracy's got a great voice, and those seniors have really taken it upon themselves to impact these younger guys in a regenerative leadership fashion. And not that they weren't doing that before when the season started, but I think they've really amplified that over the last month or so. And I think it's a great lesson for them because, as Tracy will tell you, one of the things he's learned, I think, over the time is the more you give and just keep giving, the more you get back. And it's been pretty neat to watch the impact they've had on the young guys, the way the young guys have responded. And so because of that, I feel very, very good about where we're at right now, culture-wise, foundation-wise. And, again, a lot of that credit goes to the seniors.
Okay, I have one more thing.
Sure.
I think that, 2015 now was the game where you guys lost to Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. And I think the selection committee kind of said that's what it came down to in a sense, or that was kind of the in-or-out game. And I'm wondering, just, when you're going through a pressure situation again on Saturday, and you guys are, trying to work your way into that scenario, did you take anything from that game as far as just how to approach that type of scenario?
Yeah, sure. And I don't know if that's the case or not. I really don't. All I know is that that's who we play on Thursday, and we want to certainly our guys right now are focused on playing better than we did on Saturday and playing well on Thursday. But in terms of what I learned from that, I try to learn from every situation that we're in. We obviously didn't play particularly well that day in 15, and I know the Michigan played really, really well. I just think sometimes, trying to get as Brett asked a great question there in the back, trying to get 18 to 22-year-olds to understand that they need to simplify it, clear their minds, and play one possession at a time. Not worry about what a game means or, what happened 5 days ago. And of course, he asked, is that challenging? It's really challenging. It's human nature. It's challenging for all of us. And it's certainly challenging for 18 to 22-year-olds. So I think for me, that's probably, big picture, maybe what I learned from that situation or similar situations that are similar like that is just making sure that they have laser focus on one possession at a time, doing the best job we can to create the best shot that we can get for Illinois on that possession, or if we're on defense, working together as a group of 5 to stop that ball from going in the hoop and then let everything else take care of itself. I think that's the challenge that Brett was talking about and how it pertains to your question. But that's probably more than anything maybe what I've taken away from those situations, whether it's as an assistant coach or head coach that we've been in the past that are similar to what you're talking about.